We've seen that economics is the study of scarce resources and how people have to make choices on how to allocate them. Throughout history and across the world, countries have had very different approaches or systems as to what is the best way to control and allocate these resources for their citizens. In this video, we'll look at the main three economic systems you need to know about: free market economies, command or centrally planned economies, and mixed economies. So how can we actually allocate resources? One approach would be for governments to take a step back and do little other than enforce the rule of law. Not only stopping citizens from hurting each other and committing crimes, but in particular for economic purposes, ensuring that property rights are respected, as these tell us who owns what. This type of system would be a pure free market economy. Resources would be allocated by the market forces of supply and demand and the price mechanism. If something was particularly scarce, like precious stones, the price would be high, which helps moderate the amount of demand. And for products which are more plentiful, like potatoes, the price will be lower, which acts as an incentive for more consumers to buy them. This price system can be remarkably effective at producing efficient outcomes in markets. Supporters of free market economics will focus on the idea of efficiency because there are no barriers between producers and consumers. This means they're able to communicate and respond to each other's wants. Both producers and consumers are acting in their own self-interest, but in doing so, they manage to allocate resources in a more efficient way than an interventionist government could hope to achieve. Adam Smith, who helped to establish the field of economics, referred to this as the invisible hand. When a government gets too involved, it puts itself between the consumers and producers and can lead to a range of unintended consequences. Another reason why the free market can be more efficient is the role of competition. Private businesses all competing with each other to make a profit are always likely to be more efficient than government-run organisations, because it's all about incentives. If you know that there's another business coming to take your market share, you'll find any way possible to improve and make sure this doesn't happen. This results in businesses rigorously managing costs, making better products or improving how things are made. And this all goes towards increasing efficiency and improving innovation. On the other hand, government-run organisations don't have to worry about another company taking away consumers. So for example, tax offices around the world are often seen to be slow and offer poor service. But then who else is there to replace them? There's no competition against the tax office, so they have no economic incentive to become more efficient. So competition and incentives lead to innovation and greater efficiency, and this forms the foundation of free market economics. What if we want governments to take a stronger role in managing the economy? Some countries have decided that the government is best placed to make all the decisions about how resources should be used. These systems are called command or centrally planned economies. So rather than leaving private businesses to compete with each other, the government directs production through state-owned enterprises. The main justification for this is that the free market provides highly unequal outcomes. Just look at the wages earned by CEOs of big companies compared to their workers. The rich will always get richer under this system because most of the money goes to the highest earners. In a planned system, the government can make more decisions about what is most optimal for society. Instead of letting the market tell us how much to pay people, the government can intervene and redistribute the income so that it's more equal. As well as this, governments can drive forward investment projects when they are in the interest of the economy as a whole. Much of China's impressive growth record in recent decades is due to state-run investment projects. The Nanjing Metro, which cost $1.7 billion, the $2 billion Wuhan railway station, and the $3.5 billion Beijing Capital International Airport are just three examples of many huge infrastructure projects from recent times. In a totally free market economy, private companies are unlikely to be willing or able to invest these vast amounts of money. This is because businesses are run for profit, whereas governments exist for the common good. Not only do these projects inject money into the system, but they also improve transport links for citizens, which is also good for the economy. So while command economies can be better at producing more equal outcomes and channeling investment into projects for the public good, this has to be balanced against the potential for inefficiency and less innovation than in free markets, for the reasons that we saw before. This means that just like with most things in economics, extremes are either rare or unrealistic. Completely unregulated free markets and total state control are two extreme economic systems, and in reality, most countries will fall somewhere along a spectrum between the two. So let's have a look at a few real-life examples. The United States has always been a big proponent of the power of free markets. Their tax rates are generally lower than what we might be used to, and government interventions more frowned upon. But even there, the government will intervene when the market fails to reach efficient outcomes. Like when President Roosevelt tried to end the Great Depression by building post offices, bridges and schools in the mid-30s. We mentioned China's record of state involvement and central planning, but again there's still room for private sector businesses to exist alongside this, with elements of the market system at work. So for example, Starbucks has increased the number of stores in China from just over 200 in 2005 to 3,500 stores in 2019. Luckin Coffee, which was only founded in 2017, is expected to have 4,500 stores by the end of 2019. Neither company are run by the government, and competition between them and others can help to produce more efficient outcomes. In the UK, we'd probably fall somewhere not far from the middle of this, as a mixed economy. We allow the power of markets to thrive where possible, but the government provides a number of key services, like healthcare and education, and supports many others like renewable energy. Some would argue our government should do more to redistribute incomes and nationalise services which are currently under private sector control. Others would say the government distorts the market whenever it gets involved and they should leave it to the private firms. These are all normative statements which will never really reach full agreement. So let's summarise what we've covered. There are three main economic systems to be aware of. Command, or centrally planned economies, or when the government dictates allocation of resources. Advantages include promoting equality between citizens and channeling investment to where it's most needed in the country. But they are generally more inefficient and lacking in innovation. Free market economies are when companies and consumers interact with each other and market forces dictate how resources are allocated. They can produce more efficient outcomes and greater innovation, but create more inequalities between people, and also private companies may be less willing or able to invest in large non-profit making projects. Finally, mixed economies are a combination of command and free market. Most economies operate in this way, but would fall somewhere along a spectrum between the two.